Hi, I'm Laura Lively. Welcome to you and all of your parts. I am super excited to be talking about the qualities of self. And over these next few weeks, we're going to be taking these qualities, which all begin with the letter C, and we're going to be doing kind of a deeper look into them, look at the definitions of, from the IFS perspective of what they mean. And I thought I would start with one that is one of my favorites, one that's easy for me to be able to judge in a good way, not a bad way, whether or not I have access to some self energy. So first of all, I want to mention that, as I mentioned last week, and I will probably mention again and again, it's not that we 100% live in this space. It's I have some access to it. Self energy is a continuum. And so the one I want to take a little deeper dive into is one that I use to gauge, I guess, not judge, gauge how much access to self energy I have. And so, to that point, as we go through this series, I invite you to jot down which ones resonate with you, which ones you know you have some access to, and then those that you're like, I don't get it. And I have one of those. There is one of these C's that for years I did not even understand what they were talking about. And I'll share that with you when we get to that week. But I wanted to, compassion is the one we're going to take a deep look at today. And so, definitionally, Julia Sullivan in the Center for Self Leadership defines compassion this, and I want to read it to you: to be open heartedly present and appreciative of others without feeling the urge to fix, change, or distance from them. It's an intuitive understanding that the suffering of others affects you because of your connection to them, and to simultaneously have empathy for others and the belief that the other has a self that once released, can relieve his or her own suffering. So compassion is the ability to be open-heartedly present. And they talked about and your ability to see that others also have that there's a knowing that others also have that ability, and they also have the ability to heal themselves. One of my favorite I guess phrases in that definition is without the urge to fix, change, or distance yourself. So I just want to let that sink in for a moment. One of the things that we say about self versus our parts is that our parts often have an agenda. In fact, they always have an agenda. They're trying to help you to the best of their ability. Now, how they go about that may not be great for us personally, but they have an agenda. Self really has no agenda except to be there and open and curious and healing of its own parts. So, and just a reminder, nobody lives in self 100% of the time. That's not been my experience and not been experience of my clients. And so we can have variations and gradations really of having access to compassion. Now, the definition includes compassion for others, but I would really invite you to focus on compassion for yourself. We're here to heal you, not the world at the moment. By healing you, you actually take pain out of the world, or so I believe. So let's talk about what it is to have compassion for you. And let's take that lens and turn it inward to have you and your parts have compassion for yourself and for your parts. And I think it's important. This is one of those where one of the ways I've learned to tell if I'm having some compassion is when I don't have it, when I'm not being compassionate, when I'm hearing the voice who's criticizing me, one of my friends, the inner critics. That tells me that I've got a part that's active. So in some ways, since that is one of my gauges, one of the ways I use, one of the C's that I can really identify with, that when it's there, I can feel it. When it's not there, I can also feel it. So compassion is like an open-hearted feeling. And you might consider the last time you felt compassion for someone externally to you. What was that like? How did you physically feel towards the person that you had compassion for? And then start to get curious about, do I ever feel that way towards myself? And if the answer is no, and it certainly was for me when I started, then can you get open about why is that? Because what you might be able to do, and here's the tip, is you might be able to identify another part that is active. And can you turn your focus to the part that might be judging you, that might be criticizing you, that might be telling you you're a failure? Because there you have found a part. And as we've talked about before, it is important to be able to be aware that there's a part and be able to identify it. And then can you be open towards it? Even if you struggle to be open and compassionate towards that part, you have now identified it. What I found is that once I can identify the part, it gives me a little space. I can see that the part that's calling me an idiot is a part. And then that little bit of space helps me see that part better, helps me be aware when that part is active, because I can start to identify elements of the part. My critic has a very strong script of what it says. You're an idiot. What the hell were you thinking? How could you have been so stupid? Okay, the minute I hear those words, I am aware that I am uber blended with that part, where that part is very agitated at the moment. And then can I turn some compassion, like, oh, why are you upset? Tell me what's going on here. So for me, particularly with compassion, noticing it's not there can be very helpful. And I invite you to consider, again, the last time you felt compassionate towards someone external to you. And then during this week, I invite you to notice, do you have compassion for yourself and your parts? And if not, that is okay. Notice the part that is angry or frustrated or sad, because that is a part. And just identifying it can be very helpful in your system, because then this part starts to feel seen and heard. So I hope that this was helpful. I invite you this week to practice some self-compassion. Begin to notice what's going on in your system. And until next time, love to you and all of your parts.